Okay, at long last, we're going to talk about running a 6-2. We've already talked about a 6-6, a 6-3, a 4-2, a 5-1. Now we're going to talk about another fairly advanced offense called a 6-2. So for a 6-2, you need two setters who can set pretty well, ideally equally well. And that means that you've got six hitters available. Obviously not all at the same time, but the goal is that all six players on the court will be able to attack at some point, because even those setters, when they get to the front row, they'll become attackers. They need to be able to attack well, or you might play in a league where you have a crazy number of subs. You know, by USA rules, there are a lot of subs. We can get people in and out again and again in the same set. So that might be something where you could run a 6-2, but your actual setter who's running through the back row never really plays in the front row because you have somebody who can come in and kind of play that role of an opposite. So the goal and the idea behind the 6-2 is really you're taking the benefits of the 5-1, especially when the setter is in the back row, and you have three hitters in the front row. You're taking the benefits of that system and you're basically repeating it twice. So we'll have a look at what that looks like. Just to recap, as we did with the other videos, we'll go over the overlap rule. We have the people in the 6 different zones. The blue are the front row. They can't go behind the person directly behind them. So the person in 3 can't go behind the person in 6. They can't be further away from the net than a person in 6. So we have to mind that overlap. We also have to be mindful of the person next to us. For the people on the sides in zones 1, 2, 4, and 5, it's a little bit simpler. It's just one person next to you. Whereas in the middle, in zones 3 and 6, you've got to worry about the people on either side. So when we're stacking, you have to put a little more thought into it. So we could, if we really wanted to, stack everybody in the corner like this, and that's a perfectly valid setup. No referee is going to call you for overlap there. You could also organize yourselves like this, so long as middle front doesn't go further away from the net than middle back is, you're fine. And you can also do something like this, where you have everybody shoved over in the corner except for middle back and right back, and they could go anywhere so long as they don't overlap to the side, and we don't have the middle back closer to the right sideline than the right back. So that's just a quick recap of the overlap rule in general. This is what a 6-2 looks like in all the rotations. You'll note that we have now not just an S for setter, we've got an S1 and an S2. And the ones in the back row will always be the ones that are our active setter. So we're always going to play with 3 hitters in the front row and have that setter coming out of the back row. So as we go around the horn, R1 through R6, we swap setters when we get to R4. So let's take a look at that in practice. So in rotation 1, where we have our first setter back there serving, they're in zone 1. We've got our other setter, S2, in the corner where the opposite would be if we were playing in a 5-1. When they serve the ball, the setter goes and takes their position playing defense in right back, outside hitter, and the middle blocker, or the libero play defense in left back. And in the front row, our setter usually goes over and hits on the right side where the opposite would hit. So that's for our serve. This would have been the setup maybe in kind of the olden days when I played. The opposite would have been more of like a setter 2, where we were expected to step in and set the ball instead of just being the beast that opposites are today, where their job is to kill the ball. In serve receive, this is that one that drives everyone a little bit crazy because we've got our setter pressed up against our outside hitter 1. They're on the other side of the court that they usually are. They're going to be hitting from the right side in this rotation. Now, if you look at the guide to rotations, we do talk about other solutions for rotation 1, but this is the one that most people use. The setter will come from the back row, As soon as they contact that ball, our setter 2 is the attacker on the left side, and outside hitter 1, whether they pass the ball or not, they're going to go attack the ball on the right side. This is why we're configured like this, because we have to be mindful of overlap. The orange lines are the overlap between the front and back row players, and then the green is for the right to left in the back row, and the blue is for the right to left in the front row. So the serve comes in. Those are our 3 passers: the libero, the outside hitter 2, and outside hitter 1. You can see there's a lot of congestion there. That can be a difficult rotation to get out of. And then we have our 3 attackers going after the ball. So that's rotation 1. In rotation 2, this is where we've got our outside hitter 1 has rotated the back row. They're serving. Our setter 2 is just going to go over to the right side and be blocking over there, and then also being ready to get off the net and go attack the ball on the right side. And when we're receiving, it's that stack where usually that's the opposite that we have pressed against the net. In this case, it's setter 2. And as soon as the ball is served, they're going to scoot out of there. Before the ball is served, of course, they have to make sure that they're not overlapping. We can't have setter 1 closer to the net than setter 2. Because these are our 3 passers here. We also have to mind that the libero and the outside hitter don't cross over the setter 1, because we have to worry about our side-to-side overlap there. And serve comes in, we get a decent pass, hopefully. This is where everyone kind of shoots out to go attack in rotation 2. In rotation 3, this is where setter 1 is kind of waiting. They have to wait on the side of outside hitter 1, not by the new FIVB rules that have just been rolled out this February. But when we're getting ready to serve, setter 1 is going to go take off and play defense on the right side. Setter 2 is already there. They can just hang out at the right side of the net and be ready to block. And when we're receiving, we could stack like this, because the overlap looks like this. We want to make sure that setter 1 doesn't go closer to the net than middle blocker 1, that they don't get confused. If we're playing in a 5-1 in rotation 4, we can flip them the other way around. So we just want to make sure that the middle blocker and setter are aware of where they can stand. These are our 3 passers. Now, one tweak we can make with rotation 3 that some teams don't make all the time, just because it feels a bit weird to have setter 1 go all the way over here, because you're thinking, wait a second, outside hitter 2 is in the middle front, and setter 1 is in left back, so they surely can't cross over. But the overlap rules are totally fine with that. The only person that setter 1 has to worry about overlapping to the side with is outside hitter 1. So they can go all the way over, crouch down so that they're not screening their own players, so we can get a decent pass. So you can see there with the arrows that this is still totally valid. And it's a good idea, because then the setter has much less far to run to get to their base position. So again, in this scenario, those are our 3 passers. The ball comes in, we get a decent pass. And this is what the offense looks like. We have outside hitter 2 out there ready to go take a swing on the left side. Setter 2 is ready to take a swing down the right side. And middle blocker 1 is attacking in the middle. Now, when we move back to rotation 4, this is where we just flip it and we kind of repeat rotations 1 through 3 again. So setter 1 is going to run over to the right side, just like they would if we were serving and we were running a 5-1. Setter 2 is going to go play defense, like the opposite would in right back. And when we're ready to receive serve, it's going to look exactly like rotation 1, just with our setters flipped. Now, you want to bear in mind that this can be a real kind of head wrecker for the outside hitter. Outside hitter 2 normally gets to stack over on the left side and always hit on the left side. So if you have one outside hitter that's not comfortable having that little switch where they go to the other side of the court, they pass from there, and then they attack on the right, maybe a 6-2 is not quite for you. So you have to make sure that you have pretty flexible outside hitters. Again, the overlap looks the same because it is the same as we saw in rotation 1. We have the same break to the net and the same congestion we have to deal with. And 3 attackers. We just have setter 1 playing that role that setter 2 is playing in rotation 1. When we rotate around to rotation 5, again, same thing. When we're receiving serve, we're stacked and we just have setter 1 at the net instead of setter 2. We want to think about overlap again. And just like rotation 4, you're just making people who normally don't have to think about this kind of thing. If you have assigned, outside hitter 1, you always play outside hitter 2, or people are just comfortable playing that role. You do have to consider that if you do switch to a 6-2, they'll have to be comfortable playing as both an outside hitter 1 and an outside hitter 2 because their roles will switch as they go around the court. Pass comes in, we have our 3 options to attack still. And with rotation 6, again, same setup. Setter 2 runs over and plays defense on the right side. Setter 1 just hangs out on the right side to block. And when we're receiving serve, we have that same setup. Now, I didn't bother showing the first one where they're stacked way over to the left. I just showed the one that I would encourage my players to, where the setter 2 comes all the way over as far as they can. And again, we have the 3 hitters. So every single rotation, we have 3 hitters in the front row who can attack the ball. We don't have to worry about the back row attack. As you'll probably see, usually your back row attack is not as efficient as your front row attack, especially if you're just starting out and your setters are just chucking the ball up in the air for the back row to attack it. It makes it more difficult. It is like sending over a down ball. It's more like attacking out of system. So this is good because usually the setters are a little bit more attuned to setting closer to the net, and the attackers can do something more interesting with it. So because this is a little bit more advanced, people use it if they find that they have 2 equally good setters, who generally it's better if they kind of set the same, just to make sure that the hitters are used to one kind of set coming to them all the time. You might have adaptable hitters, like the last point there, where they can hit absolutely anything. I would love to have those hitters, so send a few my way if you have them. You also want to make sure that those 2 setters can also attack well. That usually means they have a little bit of height. So instead of being on the shorter side, they've got to be a little bit taller so they can block, so they can attack. They're going to be going up against the other side's outside hitter, who are usually one of their better attackers. Or maybe you're playing in a system, you're playing by USA rules, and you've got quite a few subs during the course of a match, and you can get through a few rotations of having subs come in and out for the setter in the front row. That's excellent if you have that. With FIVB rules, which is where I'm playing with most of my teams these days, it's a lot tougher because a person can go out and come back in, and then that's it. If they come out again, they're done. So your subs get cooked really quick. So it's much more difficult to run a 6-2 when you're playing by FIVB rules. You also want to make sure that you can pass well out of those rotations with the setters in the back row. Both rotation 3 and 1 can both be kind of tricky, and we can get caught out there. For sure, most of my teams pass really well and side out pretty well in rotation 5 and rotation 6. Usually, that's when the setter's in the front row. I usually have my best middle and best outside attacking the ball in the front row in rotation 5. So we do get a lot of side outs that way. You don't get the benefit of that if you're playing with a 6-2. Now, there's nothing to say you couldn't switch and say, actually, do you know what? We're struggling to get out of it. Let's let the front row setter set, get the back row setter behind and have them behave like an opposite. But again, it just takes that bit of practice to make sure that they know where they should be playing. So that's a quick run through of running a 6-2. Like I said, it's a bit more complicated offense. Not something you're going to be running with kids who are brand new to volleyball. There's a lot of thinking that has to go on and a lot of awareness of where players are on the court. But that kind of wraps our series on running the different offenses. Hopefully that's been helpful and you have a few references to either send your players to or just have a look at to understand, okay, well, what kind of offense is going to work for me? What am I looking to do? Am I looking to develop setters? Maybe I stick with a 6-6 or I go with a 6-3, would be amazing. Do I want to make sure I'm competing at the very highest level and I have one really elite level setter? All right, well, let's chuck a 5-1 in there and see how we get on.